Hello everyone and welcome to WION live broadcast from New York. I'm Susan Tehrani. First, let's get you up to speed regarding this hour's headlines. In a major step to counter U.S. curbs, sources say China is working on over a $143 billion support package for its semiconductor industry. Betting on robust demand for international travel, one of the top U.S. carriers, United Airlines, unveils an order of 100 new Boeing 787 Dreamliners with options for an additional 100 jets. The UK says that Reuters' report on the Nigerian army killing children in its fight against insurgents is of, quote, immense concern and would be raised with Nigeria. China tells its nationals to leave Afghanistan after a deadly attack on a Kabul hotel popular with Chinese business people. Chinese leaders reportedly delay a key economic policy meeting amid growing signs that COVID infections are surging nearly a week after Beijing dropped some of the world's toughest restrictions. And at least 50 people have been killed in the Congolese capital, Kinshasa, after heavy rains unleashed floods and caused landslides. The tech war between the United States and China escalates as the race for semiconductors continue. Reports have emerged that China is working on a more than $143 billion boost to its semiconductor industry. The move seeks to counter U.S. attempts aimed at slowing its technological advances. Chinese officials revealed on Monday that the country has also launched a trade dispute at the World Trade Organization against the United States over its chip export control measures. This move by China comes as the U.S. passed a set of regulations in October that included measures to cut China off from certain semiconductor chips and chip-making equipment. The U.S. Commerce Department earlier said that the curbs aim to prevent, quote, sensitive technologies with military applications from being acquired by China's military, intelligence, and security services. However, Chinese officials have accused the U.S. of threatening the stability of the global industrial supply chain as well as violating international trade rules. Now, the newly introduced package is China's biggest fiscal incentive over 5 years, under which Beijing aims to step up support for Chinese chip production. It will aid to build, expand, or modernize domestic facilities for fabrication, assembly, packaging, and research, as well as development. Both state-owned and private enterprises in the industry will be the beneficiary of the package. You may remember back in August, President Joe Biden signed a historic bill to provide $52.7 billion in grants for research, development, and domestic manufacturing of semiconductors. Analysts say as China seeks to win the tech war, it would overhaul its current approach to advance the tech industry. More state-led spending and intervention to counter U.S. pressure is also expected.
That we can't lead manufacturing in the world.
In the latest sign of deteriorating ties between China and Taiwan, Taiwan has reported of 18 nuclear-capable Chinese bombers entering into its air defense zone. According to Taiwan's defense ministry, 21 aircrafts entered the island's southwest air defense identification zone, which included the 18 nuclear-capable H-6 bombers. This is by far the largest daily sortie by H-6 bombers since Taiwan first began releasing daily incursion data in September 2020. The H-6 is China's leading long-distance bomber and is able to carry nuclear payloads. The number of Chinese aircrafts have increased dramatically in recent weeks. The wave of aircrafts came after China imposed fresh import bans on Taiwanese food, beverages, alcohol, and fishery products last week. Taiwan lives under the constant threat of invasion by China as Beijing sees the self-ruled island as part of its territory. Moreover, military drills around Taiwan have also increased after former U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. South Korea, Japan, and the United States are set to coordinate sanctions and close gaps in international sanctions against North Korea.
Based on the robust ROK-US alliance and the trilateral security cooperation, we will strengthen our deterrence against North Korea's nuclear and missile threat. We will coordinate sanctions and close gaps in the international sanctions regime.
This month, the three nations imposed additional sanctions on North Korean officials connected to the country's weapons program. The sanctions follow a November 18th ICBM test by North Korea and amid concerns that it may be about to resume nuclear weapons testing. However, decades of U.S.-led sanctions have failed to halt North Korea's increasingly missile and nuclear weapons program.
Pyongyang's behavior this year has proven yet again that the DPRK presents one of the most serious security challenges in the region and beyond. To effectively address this threat, our trilateral diplomatic coordination has been complemented by enhanced security cooperation, including naval and ballistic missile defense drills and air exercises in response to the DPRK's missile testing, including the ballistic missile that recklessly and dangerously flew over Japan.
According to Japan, the trio would examine all options, including counterstrike capabilities, while planning to be more vigilant against North Korea's cyber threat.
We will be more vigilant.
Israel's new Iron Fist tank defense system has completed anti-tank interception tests. Iron Fist has been developed in a deal between the Defense Ministry's Tank and Armored Personnel Carrier Directorate, the Israeli Defense Force, and the Elbit System Land Division. Our correspondent, Jody Cohen, has more.
Conflicts between Israel, Hamas and Hezbollah have resulted in Israel boosting its defense capabilities for soldiers in tanks. The Iron Fist system, which is in the late stages of development, reportedly provides 360-degree protection for Eitan armored personnel carriers against multi-range threats for use in both densely populated and open areas. This follows a recent announcement by Israel's Rafael Advanced Defense Systems that it's teaming up with U.S. weapons maker Lockheed Martin to take a version of its laser defense system to the U.S. market. The Iron Beam system uses lasers to superheat and neutralize enemy rockets and drones.
The latest successful Iron Fist test is said to be a significant development milestone, and the aim is to install the lightweight system in a variety of vehicles. Its advantage being that it seems to be more maneuverable than other protective systems. And the advantage of the laser beam is the fact that it's so cheap to run, a few dollars versus $100,000 for each rocket Israel's Iron Dome system intercepts. Both systems are likely to increase Israel's military defensive capability in conflict situations. This is Jody Cohen for WION World is One.
In the United States, a man seeks freedom. His argument is that he has wrongfully spent nearly 3 decades in prison for a St. Louis killing. An attorney for the local prosecutor's office says that Lamar Johnson is wrongfully convicted after a witness was coerced into falsely identifying him as the shooter. But Assistant Missouri Attorney General said detectives will testify that they never threatened or coerced anyone. However, the state attorney general's office maintains that Johnson is rightfully convicted. Johnson is convicted for the killing of a man called Marcus Boyd. Boyd was shot dead at his home by 2 men wearing masks in October of 1994. A man who was with Boyd, James Gregory Elking, got away, and Johnson was convicted of killing Boyd and received a life sentence. Johnson continued and contended that he was with his girlfriend miles away when the shooting happened. Later on, 2 men even gave signed, sworn affidavits admitting to the killing and said that Johnson was not involved. Meanwhile, Kim Gardner, who leads the same St. Louis Circus Attorney's Office that secured Johnson's 1995 murder conviction, believes he's innocent. Gardner and other critics said that it is appalling that a man could remain in prison on such a technicality, and according to prosecutors, there is new evidence of a wrongful conviction. The release of the Twitter files continue, and this one might be the most noteworthy and controversial. The thread of 46 tweets breaks down what allegedly led to the banning of former U.S. President Donald Trump. The former U.S. president was banned on Twitter on January 8th last year. This was 2 days after the Capitol riots, and it was also just days before the inauguration of the incoming president, Joe Biden. Trump had lost his re-election bid, but continued to call the election process a sham. So the big question being asked was, one social media giant trying to influence a country's politics amid the chaos? Independent journalist Barry Wise, who was given access to the files by Elon Musk, says that that was the case. She says that the platform tried to alter the public discourse and democracy. During the transition time in January of 2021, Donald Trump had been very active on Twitter and also throughout his rallies. Some had viewed his comments as being extreme. Throughout Wise's revelations, she says that Trump's tweets had caused an uproar among the employees on their personal messaging system. The employees were showing their discontent over his views. Many were even questioning the top bosses over why a ban is already not in place. Allegedly, in one of the conversations, one employee purportedly said, "Trump clearly attempted to overthrow our democratic system and showed no signs of remorse." According to the files made public, this conversation is from January 7th, a day before Trump was officially banned. The employee further is quoted as saying, "If this is not a clear reason to suspend him, I'm not sure what would be." This conversation allegedly dominates talks throughout the company. One employee purportedly texts, "Personally, I am still struggling to understand the decision not to ban Trump altogether, given he is inciting people to violence, and that has led to people being killed." In the early afternoon of January 8th, the Washington Post published an open letter signed by over 300 Twitter employees to CEO Jack Dorsey demanding Trump's ban. The latest Twitter files claims to give insight into what must have unfolded before this letter was signed. However, not all employees agreed that Trump was inciting violence, and many were also reportedly hesitant of banning an account belonging to the President of the United States. After all, according to Twitter's own policies, it aims to provide a forum for people to be informed and to engage with their leaders directly. Wise reveals later that same day, Twitter executives hosted a 30-minute all-staff meeting. Then CEO Jack Dorsey and legal head Vijay Gadadi answered questions as to why Trump was not banned yet. But things escalated from here on. The staffers were left angrier than before. Just hours after a lot of back and forth, Twitter finally announced Trump's permanent suspension. The reason cited was, quote, due to the risk of further incitement of violence. The platform personal messaging system was allegedly filled with cheers and congratulation messages. A former U.S. employee of Indian IT giant Tata Consultancy Services has sued the company, accusing it of discriminating against non-South Asian and non-Indian applicant employees. The lawsuit accuses TCS of knowingly and creating and maintaining an overwhelmingly disproportionate workforce in the United States that consists of approximately 70% South Asian employees, with a majority from India. The complainant, Sean Katz, worked for the company for 9 years before being let go. The lawsuit filed in the United States District Court for the District of New Jersey on December 7th also claims that TCS has a systematic pattern of discriminating against applicants and employees with respect to hiring, staffing, benching, and even promotion and decisions, and the policy is implemented top-down at the company. Under the U.S. law, a hiring decision cannot be based on a person's race or national origin. The lawsuit alleges that despite meeting the qualifications for promotion for several years in a row, some employees were never promoted even after getting recommendation for promotion by managers and clients. A class action lawsuit refers to people who have suffered the same or similar injury. This is not the first time that the Indian software company has been slapped with such a lawsuit. A similar lawsuit was filed back in 2015, which the company won in 2018. At the time, the jury determined that TCS did not have a pattern or practice of discriminating against non-South Asian workers. The mortal remains of prominent American journalist Grant Wahl were repatriated to the U.S. after he died while covering the FIFA World Cup in Qatar last week. 49-year-old Wahl passed away after he collapsed in the press box while covering the quarterfinal match between Argentina and the Netherlands at the Lusail Stadium. He had earlier said on social media platforms that he was feeling ill and had visited a medical clinic. Wahl had made headlines in November by reporting that he was detained and briefly refused entry before the United States tournament opening against Wales. Homosexuality is illegal in Qatar, and it is said that Wahl wasn't allowed entry because he was wearing a rainbow t-shirt in support of the LGBTQ+ community. Wahl's brother, Eric, believes that he may have been killed. However, U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price has said that there is no indication of foul play at this point. His family is likely to arrange for an independent autopsy in New York. The United States midfielder Giovanni Reyna has slammed head coach Greg Berhalter for leaking details about his failing out at the FIFA World Cup. According to reports, the 20-year-old was almost sent back home due to his apparent lack of effort in training just before the tournament. Reyna, who plays for Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga, admitted his disappointment at the public revelation and hit out at Berhalter, claiming his attitude was caused by the U.S. MNT head coach. After the midfielder was told that he'll only be playing a supporting role in Qatar, Reyna took to Instagram and wrote, quote, just before the World Cup, Coach Berhalter told me that my role at the tournament would be very limited. I was devastated. I am someone who plays with pride and passion. Soccer is my life, and I believe in my abilities. I am also a very emotional person, and I fully acknowledge that I let my emotions get the best of me and affect my training and behavior. Reina, who was allegedly just one player vote away from being cut from the World Cup roster, also claimed that he apologized and was forgiven by the team. The 20-year-old did not start a single game in Qatar and was restricted to just 52 minutes of action across 2 substitute appearances. One of them came during the team's defeat to the Netherlands in the round of 16. Reina is seen as one of the U.S.'s most promising players, and his playing time, or the lack of it, was the subject of intense scrutiny throughout the tournament among USA supporters. Well, the countdown has begun for the release of the most anticipated film of the year, Avatar 2. Just days before the release, the movie premiered in Los Angeles, California. Director James Cameron skipped the star-studded premiere after contracting COVID-19. More about this in our next report.
I get emotional to know that I'm a part of something that has been groundbreaking and trailblazing and has meant so much to people, to so many people around the world, regardless of where they come from and how they come from and what they come from.
I think what audiences can expect from this one is the ultimate cinema experience. If there was one movie that was ever meant to be seen on the big screen, it's Avatar: The Way of Water. And I think what they're going to find unexpectedly is just how emotional this movie is.
I know you think I'm crazy. But I feel her.
The discovery of historical artifacts gives us a glimpse of how people before our time used to live. The clothes, paintings, wooden artifacts, all of these hold a story into it. And with some exciting tales to discover, these objects also hold some whopping prices. In the latest, a pair of work pants recovered from an 1857 shipwreck off the coast of North Carolina is being described as the world's oldest known pair of jeans in the world. Our next report gets you all the details. That's all the time we have for this news desk. Live from New York, I'm Susan Tehrani. Thank you so much for staying with us and watching. Do stay tuned. More news and headlines continue on WION World as One.
There are many other